Good morning, Internet. I have for you today another tutorial. This time on this is a crash course on Applied Energistics, specifically on setting up a very basic ME system. In fact, what I'm going to be showing you is how to set up this guy right here behind me. So as you can see, it's just a terminal, an energy acceptor, and a drive, and we're going to jump into how to actually find everything and how to put this all together. Now, before we get started on going through all the details, I just want to mention that Applied Energistics is a very, very complex mod. There is a lot in this mod, and I'm not going to be going through all of the advanced things. We're not going to be talking about channels. We're not going to be talking about the controller. We're just going to be setting up that very basic system, and it's going to end up being a bit of a process. So the first couple things you're going to need to do is you're going to need to head out into your mine, and you're going to want to find the Certus quartz ore as well as the charged Certus quartz ore. The basic Certus quartz ore is going to be the more important of the two, and you're going to want to try to collect as much of this as you can. The charged Certus quartz ore is not as important. There is a way to make this, or at least these, from the uncharged variants, which we'll go over here in a little bit. But these are the important ones that you're going to want to try to get as much of as you can. You're also going to need to head out into the world and explore to find meteorites. And the meteorites are going to be made out of these skystone. And inside the meteorites, you're going to be looking for these 4 items here. We are actually going to jump into a different world, and I will show you what these meteorites look like in the world. All right, so this is what the meteorites look like when they are in the world. As you can see, they make quite a mess. Piles of dirt and sand. There's going to be some gravel around there. A lot of times there's also lava pools around here, so you're going to want to be careful about that. But what you're going to do, assuming your computer cooperates with you, but what you're going to want to do is you're going to get up on top of it, is usually the easiest way, especially if there's lava around it. And you're going to mine your way down through the skystone, which you will want to collect some of this. It is, you do use it in a few crafting recipes, but you're not going to need a ton of it. What you're for is this skystone chest. Inside the chest, you're going to want to hope to find these presses. And you're going to end up where a lot of the chests that you open are going to look a lot like this one, where there's going to be 1, maybe 2 presses in there. You might get lucky and find 3. You can also find duplicates. But what you're going to be doing is you're going to need to keep searching around until you have found all 4 of the presses that you need. So the Inscriber calculation press, engineering press, logic press, and the silicon press. Now, it is worth pointing out that the default installation of Applied Energistics does have recipes to allow you to duplicate these. So if you're playing on a multiplayer server and another player already has an ME system set up, you may be able to work out a trade with them or a purchase, or however your server is set up, to get your hands on the presses without having to head out into the world to find them. If you do end up having to go out and search for the presses themselves, there is a tool that you can use that will make things a little bit easier, and that is the Meteorite compass. It is crafted just like this: iron ingots around a charged Certus quartz crystal, and that will get you the Meteorite compass. And as you can see, standing right here, it is spinning like crazy, but if I move a distance away, the needle now points in the general direction. It's not terribly accurate, but it'll get you into the right vicinity of a meteorite. All right, so one thing that you want to keep in mind with these meteorites, especially if you're using the Meteorite compass, is that they can generate underground. And when they generate underground, here we go. When they generate underground, there is generally nothing on the surface to indicate that there is a meteorite there. Just your compass is going to be going crazy. These can be quite difficult to locate because, as we saw with the surface one back there, the compass doesn't point towards the chest. It points in the general vicinity of where the meteorite is. This meteorite could be anywhere around here, and if we drop into spectator mode, we can actually see they don't show up in spectator. Like you can't even use it like an X-ray trick to try to find these because they don't show. The sky stone is treated as stone, and so you see through it. You may get lucky and spot the chest, but I believe that, yeah, it looks like that blends in as well. So underground meteorites can be very difficult to find unless you are intending on mining out an entire chunk. They can also generate at virtually any Y level. So they can be all the way down here near bedrock, or they can be all the way up on the surface. Once you've managed to find or acquire from other players all 4 of your presses, it's time to build something to do with them. The item that you're going to be using your presses in is going to be the Inscriber. And in order to make the Inscriber, it is just some iron, a couple of sticky pistons, and a Fluix Crystal. Now, in order to make the Fluix Crystal, this is where your charged Certus quartz is going to come into play. And the way that you make these is you're going to take one charged Certus quartz, 1 nether quartz, and 1 piece of redstone. Then you're going to throw all 3 of these into a pool of water. And after a second or two, you will get some Fluix crystals. And that process can be repeated. You can do that as often as you like. You can also use some dispensers to throw the items in as well. You will just need to have some way of picking the Fluix crystals up once they are created. But that is how you make the Fluix crystals, and that will get you your Inscriber. If you don't have any charged Certus, or you weren't able to find any when you were down mining, if you run out or you're not able to find any, you can also make a charger. And the charger is pretty similar to the Inscriber, some iron as well as 2 Fluix crystals, right like that. So you're going to need at least 1 charged, and then that will get you your charger. Now, both of these machines do not require Applied Energistics power, the AE power type. Both of these can run just fine off any compatible any RF compatible power source or generator. So as you can see, I've got these hooked up to thermodynamics power conduits right now, and they are both fully charged. You can also they can also be powered off of immersive engineering power connectors, as well as anything else. Anything that is a compatible RF power supply can run both of these machines. And to use your charger, you just take your Certus quartz, right-click it into it, wait a few seconds, and it will transform. All right, now the first real piece of our puzzle that we're working towards is going to be your energy acceptor. And what I'm about to show you here can really be done in any order. This is just the order that it makes the most sense for me to do it in, but you can do it in whatever order works for you. So to make the energy acceptor, we're going to need 1 of those Fluix crystals, some iron, as well as 4 quartz glass. Now, in order to make the quartz glass, that is going to be 4 pieces of glass, as well as 5 nether quartz dust. To get the nether quartz dust, we are going to take some nether quartz and we're going to throw it into a grindstone. Now, you can use the Applied Energistics grindstone. You can also use any other grindstone or crusher type machine that you have available to you. So if you have an immersive engineering crusher, you can chuck the nether quartz into the crusher and it will give you the dust that you need. The same thing goes for mechanism and any other crusher or grindstone type mods, type machines that you have available to you. You don't have to use the Applied Energistics one. If you are going to use the Applied Energistics grindstone, this is the way that you make it. So the grindstone, obviously, it is going to be 3 pieces of stone, and this is the what's commonly referred to as smooth stone, but isn't actually smooth stone, just the vanilla basic stone, 2 pieces of cobblestone, and then 3 crystals, 3 quartz crystals, and you can use nether quartz, you can use charged Certus quartz, or you can use regular Certus quartz in any of these positions. Now, I highly recommend using nether quartz for this, as you're probably going to have the most abundance of this. Don't use the charged Certus quartz for this. You don't need it, and these things can be quite difficult to find. So probably use the nether quartz, or you can use the standard Certus quartz. You're also going to need a wooden gear. And this position is compatible with any other wooden gear. So you have Ender IO wooden gears or any other type of wooden gear. You don't have to use the Applied Energistics one, but in order to make the Applied Energistics gear, it is just 4 sticks in a crafting grid, and that will get you the gear. Now that gets you the main body of the grindstone. In order to actually use the grindstone, you need a wooden crank. And the crank is made with just some sticks like that, and that gets you the crank. Then you simply place down the grindstone, hold shift, and click the crank in on top, and then you have the grindstone, and you're ready to start grinding. In order to use these, you place your item that you wish to grind in any one of these 3 slots, it doesn't matter which one, and then you right-click on the crank. And each time you right-click it, it'll make a complete revolution, and that will move the quartz, or the item inside it, first into here, and then it will begin to crush it. And what you're going to want to do is you'll keep clicking this until clicking it doesn't cause the crank to turn. Once that happens, it's done. And as you can see, my ore dictionary has created the crushed quartz from nuclear craft out of this. That's fine. They all work together. If you keep clicking this when there's nothing inside it, you can eventually break that crank. So it's fortunate that they're pretty cheap to make more of. All right, now that we have ourselves an energy acceptor, we need to work on the next step. And what we're going to work on next is going to be getting the cable that actually connects your ME terminal as well as any other machines that you want to attach to it. In order to create the very most basic cable, which is the glass Fluix cable, you start with some quartz dust, some regular glass in a crafting grid like this, and that will get you the quartz fiber. This is actually a useful block, as quartz fiber will transmit power but not data channels. And we do actually use this in some of our other tutorial videos out there to create sub-networks. To turn the quartz fiber into the Fluix cable, you simply place the fiber into a crafting grid along with 2 Fluix crystals, and that will get you the glass cable Fluix. You can then color this using just placing the cable into a crafting grid along with some dye that will get you the different colored cables, which can be useful for organizing. Different colored cables will only connect to other cables of the same color. And it doesn't matter whether they're glass, covered, or smart. They will only connect to the same color, except for the Fluix crystal, for the Fluix type cables, which will connect to any other color. All right, moving right along, we are going to work now on building our ME drive. The drive itself is relatively easy to make, as it's just 4 pieces of iron, 2 of the glass Fluix cable, and then 2 engineering processors. And this is where things get a little bit complicated. In order to make the engineering processor, you're going to need to make use of your Inscriber. And you're going to use the engineering press in there along with a diamond. And that will get you the printed engineering circuit. You're also going to need to run your silicon press along with a piece of silicon. And that will get you the printed silicon. Now, in order to get the silicon piece, you're going to crush a piece of quartz, take the resulting dust and run it through a furnace. And that will get you a piece of silicon. And again, depending on your mod pack and how the ore dictionary is set up, you might end up with something other than Applied Energistics silicon. As long as it has the item silicon ore dictionary entry, it will work just fine. Once you have the two printed circuits, you will then take these two, place both of them into your inscriber along with a piece of redstone, and that will give you the finished product. And you'll be repeating this for all of the different types. You'll just swap out the press and the item to make the various different circuits. So we're going to end up needing a bunch of logic circuits a little bit down the road. So if we look in here how to make the printed logic circuit, we can see that it is a gold ingot. Now, it is possible to automate the inscribers, both using Applied Energistics as well as using some hoppers. We're not going to go over that in this video. I am just going to mention that the direction that items go into in these inscribers is directional. So this slot goes in through one of the sides. This slot comes in through the other side. This slot comes in through the top or the back. And then the output comes out through the bottom if you're using hoppers. So now that you have your ME drive, you're going to need something to put inside it. And we're going to start with the 1K storage component. These can be upgraded, and you'll want to look in JEI to see what the upgrade path for each of these are. But in order to get the basic ones, it is going to be one of the logic processors that I mentioned earlier, 4 Certus quartz crystals, 4 pieces of redstone dust, and that will get you the 1K ME storage component. Now again, this is another recipe where you're going to notice in JEI that it's going to show you being able to use the regular Certus quartz, the charged Certus quartz, or a pure Certus quartz. And I'm going to highly recommend that you use the basic quartz crystal, the basic Certus quartz crystal. Don't use those higher tier crystals unless you absolutely have to, because they are kind of a pain to make. Now that you have the storage component, you need to make a drive. And in order to make the actual storage cell, it is going to be 3 pieces of iron, 3 pieces of redstone, 2 quartz glass. If you only place these outer 8 items, you will get the empty storage housing. If you place the storage component in the middle, you will then get the appropriate cell of that size. And you can replace the 1K with any of the other upgraded storage components, depending on what other mods you have available to you. That will allow you to create these storage cells. If you have the mod extra cells installed, there is an advanced storage housing that is used for the storage cells from that mod. So if your cell isn't creating a valid recipe, make sure that that is not the case. Now, if you have a storage cell that you are looking to upgrade, you want to maybe create some 4Ks, and you want to reuse your storage cell, if you take the storage cell, as long as it is empty, hold it in your hand, hold shift and right click, and it will separate out the storage housing from the actual components. And then to combine these two back together, you just place them into a crafting grid and you will get the finished product once again. The last thing that you're going to need to make is the actual terminal. And again, it's another multi-step process that it's going to take a little while to work your way through. I feel like the designer of Applied Energistics really intended you to use auto crafting for as much of this as you can, and I really, really strongly recommend that you set up auto crafting as soon as possible for all of these recipes so that you don't have to go through this every time you want to expand your network. But anyway, the next thing that we're going to make is the actual ME terminal, that allows you to actually access and use your system. In order to do that, the first thing that we're going to need is an illuminated panel. It's a pretty easy one. You just need a piece of redstone, 2 pieces of glowstone dust, a piece of redstone, and then 3 of the quartz glass. That will create the illuminated panel. Now, there are 2 other variations of the illuminated panel. There is a bright version as well as a dark version. You can swap between all 3 variants by just placing this item into a crafting grid, and it will create the next one in the line. The version of the panel that you use will affect the appearance of the final product, though it doesn't affect the actual UI. It's just how it appears in the world. You are also going to need a formation core. Now, a formation core is going to be a Certus quartz crystal, a piece of Fluix Dust, and a logic processor. So you get the Fluix Dust by just chucking a Fluix Crystal into your grinder, whichever one you happen to be using. Those in, and that will get you 2 of the formation cores. You're also going to need an Annihilation Core. Annihilation cores share the same recipe, except instead of a Certus quartz, it is a nether quartz crystal. And that will get you 2 of the Annihilation cores. Now we're going to bring it all together. We're going to put our formation core, our Annihilation Core, 1 more logic processor, as well as whichever panel you have decided to use into another crafting grid, and that will get you the basic ME terminal. Take your ME terminal, attach it to your drive through a cable, and as you can see, I have the cable connected here to the energy acceptor. The energy acceptor will pass data channels as well as power, obviously. Your ME drive will also pass data channels as well as power through it, so this setup can be placed on top of the drive just as easily as on top of the acceptor. Then you will need to run some form of power into the energy acceptor. The energy acceptor will accept any energy that is RF compatible. So as long as you have an RF compatible energy generator, which in 112 is pretty much all of them, you can connect that to your acceptor and it will power your ME system. In order to make sure that your system is powered, this piece right here will change color depending on whether or not your system has power. So as we can see here in just a second, there we go. So now the system is now offline. Excuse me, foxes. The system is now offline, so you can see that this has gone black. If we re-enable the power, after just a second, it will very subtly change color. The color that this dot becomes depends on the color of the cable that you have attached to it. So the reason it is this very dark purple right now is because we're using a Fluix cable. If we were using a brighter colored cable, that dot would be a brighter color. The same goes for the appearance of the panel itself. The actual color of this is dependent on the color of the cable that is attached to, as well as what panel you used as its base. So that's a little bit of a way that you can customize how this looks and help it to blend into your builds a little bit better. But as long as you have that pieces lit up, and as you can see, Walia at the top is reporting that the device is online, and your ME drive, you then place your ME drive and your storage cell just goes inside it. We just right click on it. The actual icons on the face will reflect where your drive is inside the drive, inside the actual drive, as well as that indicator right there will show you whether or not your drive is receiving power. So again, if we turn the power off to the system, then it will go black. Re-enable the power and it lights up. This dot will also change color depending on how full that particular cell is. It will be either green, yellow, or red, and there's some very complicated reasonings for why a given cell will be a particular color, and I don't particularly know what they all are. Just know that yellow, you might want to think about building another cell, and red, you absolutely need to build another cell. But that's it. You can then start storing items inside your ME system. and they will then be stored on your cell, and that's it. As I mentioned at the beginning of the video, there is a lot that you can do to expand the system. There's the ME controller that you will eventually need to build in order to get more than just 8 devices on the channel. The system behind me currently has 2 devices attached to it. The energy acceptor does not count as a device because it doesn't use a data channel. So only the terminal and the drive itself count against the number of total devices that you can have connected. If all you want is an easy storage system, what I have behind me is probably going to work just fine for you. If you're like me, though, and you like to automate things, you're going to end up needing the ME controller, which we're not going to go over in this video because that adds a whole extra layer of complexity to Applied Energistics. Now, if that is something that you would like to see me go over, the more advanced stuff that you can do with this mod other than what we've done in the other videos, let me know down in the comments. We can go over how data channels work. We can go over using the ME controller and things like that. Let me know down in the comments. If you like the video, if it helps you out any, make sure to hit that like button. Subscribe for more tutorials that I've got coming out here pretty soon. And as always, if you want to get your name on one of my little fox friends that I have running around here, let me know down in the comments, as well as what color you would like your ribbon to be. Otherwise, until then, I will see you next time, and happy Minecrafting.